Welcome back, everyone, to episode 2 of the Full Count Media podcast. Last week, if you remember, we talked about hitters. So it's only obvious that this week we would be talking about what, Jim?
Top 5 starting pitchers this time.
Good job. So, as you may remember, and if you're new here, welcome. I am Alden. I am a stats nerd.
And I'm Jim, and I'm not.
Pretty basic. That's about all there is to it.
About to lay some knowledge on you, though, this week.
Yeah, here we go. All right. So we're going to jump right into it this time. We've learned from last week. We're going to hop right into what we're doing here and
try to keep this not exactly 40 minutes, but hopefully
20 to 25.
20 to 25, maybe linger a little 30 if we get carried away with nonsense with stats.
But, all right. I mean, it's only fun. Rock, paper, scissors to see who goes first. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Ha-ha!
Well, then you get to decide who goes first.
Oh, yes, that's true.
You win.
I'll go first. Screw it. I'm
Okay.
excited to talk about it.
I'm curious what the stats has to say on your numerical top 5.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so my number 5 is Zach Wheeler.
Okay.
I couldn't, just because of the purist in me, I couldn't put him any higher. He's phenomenal. He's unreal, but he's not the best pitcher in baseball. If you want to include the postseason, he might be right now, just because there's nobody who's pitched as well as him in the postseason, like, that's actively there every year.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of just pitching going into this year, we're counting the regular season, that's it. Zach Wheeler is my number 5. He is top 5 in FIP, WAR, home runs per fly ball, walks per 9, first pitch strike percentage. And that just kind of tells me, through all the analytics and advanced stats, that he throws strikes and they don't get hit hard.
What's FIP?
FIP is fielding independent pitching. So you take the ERA and you take the defense out of it. So like shifts and stuff, like if a hitter hits it against the shift, there would be a defender there. That's not the pitcher's fault. That's the defense shifting.
Well, it is the pitcher's fault because he should execute where the pitch is to pitch to the shift.
But sure, you, with the way hitters are now, you can throw inside pitches and they'll inside out them. There's, like
what Crawford used to do, that when they shifted him, he would just bunt it down third base.
Down the third base line. Right. There's nothing a pitcher can do about that.
Right.
There just isn't. So that doesn't get added against him. FIP takes into account walks, strikeouts, home runs. The things that a pitcher controls directly.
Yes.
No other fielder has a play in. And he's top 15 in everything else. He strikes out a lot of guys, obviously. He's pitched a lot of innings lately. He has a crazy good ground ball rate, so he's getting a lot of grounders. And even with the FIP and everything like that, he still has a great ERA.
He does.
So he's not the best, but he's definitely one of them.
Which is funny, because if you look at it from a non-numerical standpoint, I would argue that Aaron Nola would be better than Wheeler. But the stats don't back that up.
Right. No, absolutely. Right. Exactly. If you want to look at like longevity and the impact that like being there provides your team, Aaron Nola is one of the most valuable pitchers in baseball, without a doubt.
Right.
He hasn't missed a start in his entire career. He regularly gives you 200 innings and 200 strikeouts and not a lot of walks. And so like he's a great, but that Zach Wheeler is my number 5. Who do you got, Jim?
I want you to take a wild guess on who my number 5 is.
I want to say it might be Logan Webb.
It sure is.
Okay.
So last year, I did, it's an eye test. I'm an eye test kind of guy, but I did a tiny bit of research this time.
Right, yeah.
He had the most innings pitched last year at 216, and he was top 10 in WHIP and ERA.
Those are eye test stats. That you're not going into FIP and
No, sorry, he was top in WHIP, but his ERA struggled last year. That's what I meant. He was top in WHIP, but his ERA struggled. Defensively, the Giants weren't helping him a lot. But I'm also being very biased. I think Logan Webb is a top 5 starter. I think with the potential of the defensive arrangement that San Francisco has done, there might be a better chance that he can stay top 5. If he's not top 5, he will definitely be a top 10 at the end of the year, in my opinion. My number 4 is Kevin Guzman.
Okay.
He had the second most strikeouts last year at 237. He was top 10 in ERA and in top 20 in WHIP.
Okay.
And this was all, granted, this is last year. I know Toronto's going to have a lot of good quality starters throughout the year, so there was a toss up between Guzman and somebody's name I'm blanking on right now, but they were,
Was it Manoah?
No,
I was going to say, please don't tell me Manoah.
It was, I want to say his name was like Kevin, started with an S. Anyway, they were both like kind of back and forth on where they were located between, WHIP, ERA, strikeouts, and stuff like that. But I think my number 4, I feel comfortable with, is Kevin. So,
all right.
Who's your number 4?
Is Framber Valdez.
And who is Framber Valdez?
Framber Valdez is the ace now of the. I mean, yeah, I would hope so if he's going to be a top 5 pitcher of the Houston Astros. So, a 60% ground ball rate over the last 2 years. That's ridiculous.
Is he a ball pitcher or?
He's a sinker pitcher.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it's. Yeah. I
hope so. If you're getting 60% ground balls, I hope you throw sinkers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's also top 5 in FIP, expected FIP, innings pitched, strikeouts to walks, which just to me shows that he's proven that he himself is also capable of getting the job done. Screw the defense, he can do it himself, which is kind of good because the Astros didn't have a single positive defender by total defense in the infield. So he's getting all those ground balls, and they're not helping him out at all. This is the exact same offense for the defense for the Astros, essentially, that put up really, really, really good numbers in 2022. So they're capable of playing good defense. They just had a weird year and didn't play good defense. I think Altuve was also hurt for a good portion.
I think so, yeah. If memory serves me.
Yeah, so that definitely doesn't help.
Yeah.
But I think that they're going to have a better defense this year because that was weird last year.
I feel like baseball in general was weird last year.
It was kind of weird. I think the pitch clock was just like, and the base, just like everything, the amount of new rules thrown at everyone at once.
Yeah.
Felt like it definitely had an effect. I think that the defense is going to improve, and I think that Framber is going to get back into the top 5 this year because he was a top 5 pitcher for sure in 2022, and then probably like a 6 or 7 last year. So I think that the defense will improve, and he'll get himself right back in the top 5.
Okay. Well, who you got for 3?
I have Garrett Cole at 3. So
okay.
It's like really possible, obviously, that he could be number 1, but he's going to 2 months of the season at least.
Yep.
So, and that's it. Like, again, he's still got to go get a second opinion. They don't really know. The first doctor said, hey, maybe let's give him some rest, and that should help. So they're at this point just banking on the fact that rest is going to do what it needs to do for 2 months, and then he'll be back on the field being Garrett Cole of Garrett Cole.
I find that we could throw out the stats and whatnot on what he's done the last couple of years. He was the Cy Young winner last year.
He's
But
between first and third in every single advanced metric over the last 2 years and over the last, you guessed it, maybe you didn't, 6 years.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But so we're going to say an elbow that we're not 100% sure what the injury is.
Yeah, it's just right now, like
Rest.
serious discomfort.
I feel like with, an X-ray and MRI, because he's going to go for a second opinion on the MRI.
Mhm.
If they decide that the second opinion on the MRI states that he's fine to go, how hard do you push him right away? And then there's the. I'll let you keep going. Go ahead.
That's pretty much all I have on Cole. I mean, he's so good, like 6 years of dominance, like league wide dominance.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. That doesn't happen.
No.
I think back, I'm thinking like pitchers who have done that recently.
Was he a Yankee for all those 6 years, or was
Astros.
I wasn't sure how long he's been a Yankee, but
I don't remember the exact year. I think it might have been the same year that Bryce Harper signed his contract, or the year after. But I mean, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 years, something like that. But even still, so yeah, it's because. But yeah, it goes back to his Astros days that he's been like legitimately, just undoubtedly the best pitcher in baseball.
My number 3 is Luis Castillo.
I love Luis Castillo.
So do I. I have become more knowledgeable of what the Mariners have been doing over the last couple of years. Fantasy baseball helps having 3 of their outfielders and players in general. But Luis Castillo was top 10 in WHIP, Ks, and inning pitch last year, and just outside of the top 10 in ERA.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you are top 10 in WHIP, Ks, and innings pitched, you are getting outs. If you're top 10 in Ks, you're striking everybody out. If you're going to be top 10 in innings pitched, you're saving your bullpen, you're saving your team, you're helping the wins column appear better for your team. And if you're going to be just outside of the top 10 in ERA, your strikeouts are also producing the fact that nobody's really getting on. Because if you have a very low ERA, guess what? You're not letting up a lot of runs. And not letting up a lot of runs and keeping the ball out of the bullpen means you are very dominant in that kind of sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're limiting your pitch count. You're getting out of innings quickly so that you can go deeper into games. That's huge.
For a team that I personally think has been relatively quiet for a while.
I think this year's going to change that. Random side note, I think they have the best rotation in baseball. Continue.
Yeah, a lot more people. They're going to be put on a lot more notice this year, I think.
You got Castillo. You got Logan Gilbert.
Yep.
Gilbert. Who's the other guy over there? I don't know. They have so many freaking people over there that like these guys and they're all young.
Yes.
Like Castillo, I think, is like their oldest pitcher, and he's not old.
No, there's no way he's 30. I was
going to 29, yeah.
Yeah. My number 2 is Zach Allen.
Okay. No, I love Zach Allen.
I hate making lists that involve rival teams. For everybody there, I'm a Giants fan. It killed me putting a Diamondback above a Giant. I don't like it, but I did it. Zach Allen had 17 wins last year, 210 innings pitched, 220 strikeouts, and those were all top 10. I believe the wins was second or third most in the league last year, and he was just outside the top 10 in WHIP. So he had the second most innings pitched. I remember that. He had second most innings pitched. He had the second most strikeouts. He was crushing it last year. I think he can easily repeat what he did last year, I think. If you can put up top 10 in case, just outside top 10 in whip, you can put yourself top 10 in all of your metric stats. You're not just a top, but you have a chance to be a top 5.
And I think the Diamondbacks got better this offseason.
I think so too.
And they went out and got Eduardo Rodriguez for their rotation as well, which takes more pressure off of Gallen to be the only guy who gets it done or whatever every like he's still the ace without a doubt of that staff.
Yeah.
Getting Erod takes a lot of pressure off. Now you have a guy the next day who's equally a stopper, equally going to give you 6-7 innings and save the bullpen.
Right. If you have 2 guys that could save your bullpen, if you struggle on one of those days, guess what? The bullpen will be nice and fresh for you, and you're ready to go. And then if you crush it that day, and then you got Erod that's going to struggle, you're again.
But they're still fresh.
So, yeah. Zach Gallen, I think, is not a consensus second top 2, but he's easily in a top 5 list.
I think you're going to be real happy with my number 2, Jim.
There's no way you put Logan Webb number 2.
I absolutely did.
Humor me on the advanced metrics on Logan Webb.
So he is second in the National League over the last 2 seasons in innings pitched.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also second in FIP. So he's getting it done on his own, right? He's first in the National League in ground ball rate. And also first in expected FIP, which is just even less defense.
Yeah.
Then you compile the fact that with over the last 2 seasons, he's third in ERA and expected ERA. The only knock on him that I could even find is his batting average on balls in play. The only reason that his batting average on balls in play is so high is because his batting average on ground balls to the pull side was 301.
Yikes.
So let's say that maybe you take one of the defenders on that pull side, JD Davis, and you replace him with arguably the second best defensive third baseman in baseball, in Matt Chapman.
Yep.
How much does that batting average go down when you go from, hold on, ready?
Yep.
Negative 15 total defense to plus 41 total defense.
You said he had what for the ERA?
He was third in expected ERA. I didn't look. I don't have the exact number here.
He's third in expected ERA.
And that's with one of the worst defenders in the league at third base. Now you replace him with one of the best.
If you replace him, there's got to be some advanced metric that will show it by the All-Star break. That'll show his expected ERA should go even lower with Matt Chapman out there.
I agree. That's why I have him at number 2.
Who's your number 1?
So you mentioned before that you hated the fact that you had to put a division rival.
I think we might have finally agreed on somebody in the position.
Should we just say it on 3?
Sure.
1, 2, 3. Spencer Strider.
Yep.
So over the last 2 seasons, he's not a qualified pitcher. That is only, so when I was originally making my list, I had it set to qualified pitchers. And I'm going through and I'm counting down, and then I'm getting close to the number 1 spot, and I'm like, where the hell is Spencer Strider?
Why is it start?
Oh, that's right. He made his debut last year in the bullpen.
Oh.
So he didn't actually become a starter until a little later in the year. So his first few appearances were out of the pen. So it limited his innings in his rookie year as a starter, and I obviously had it set to just starting innings. So over the last 2 seasons, he has just shy of 300 innings. He has 294 innings.
Yeah.
Since he's pitched to a 2.5 FIP which is just like his personal ERA
Yeah.
through the defense. He's a 2.5 ERA pitcher if the defense is just always there.
Yeah.
So his ERA definitely would have reflected that too if the Braves were even remotely good defensively last year. They were bottom third in total defense, runs saved, and UZR, which is like a range thing.
Yeah.
So they were just like bad defensively. And he was still far and away, without a doubt, like the best National League pitcher last year, and it wasn't even close. I mean, I would if Garrett Cole was healthy, this would be much deeper of a conversation for this year. Honest to God.
Yeah.
Spencer Strider, in my opinion, is lucky that Garrett Cole is injured. If he cares about our rankings at all.
Yeah, we use somewhat justifiable ratings, I like to say. Realistically, I don't think there's a chance that neither one of us don't put Garrett Cole first if the news was that his throwing elbow was bothering him, and he'll be out until June or maybe even later.
Right. If he's going on opening day, he's my number one pitcher. It's not even close.
Easily.
But
I mean,
I also just had to add real quick to the Spencer Strider web. So he already had the fastball, the slider, and the changeup, which were all plus pitches by a long shot if you go into the metrics. And then this offseason, he was like, hey, it would be fun if I also threw a curveball.
see, I don't like.
And no, and hold on.
Okay, yep.
And he's absolutely dominating with it already this spring.
Well, it's because it's something people haven't seen. So
and that he's just an incredibly talented pitcher who apparently can just say, I'm just going to throw this now.
Yeah, that's how it works sometimes. But like I looked at it just for last year's stats. He had the most wins last year, and he had the most strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to do all that and keep yourself, I think he was somewhere top 10 or top 20 ERA,
mm-hmm.
and probably top 20 10 or
yeah. The ERA was a little down, but again, that's because the defense was abysmal.
Yeah,
his FIP was 2.5. 2.5. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. That's ridiculous. This guy pitched to a 2.5 ERA. He said, fuck you guys, I'm so good. And the defense was like, well, we have to keep it like fair.
Yeah. It's got to be somewhat fair. But right. I am just happy that we agreed on somebody.
Yeah. No, that was good.
I'm going to cause a lot of red flags with my 2 honorable mentions. So I'll let you go first.
No, why don't you go first with your first honorable mention?
Garrett Cole is one of my honorable mentions.
No, I like that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, because of the injury. He's a former Cy Young winner. He's
2-time.
Cy Young winner last year.
And he won it with the Astros.
Yeah. So you got 2 Cy Youngs within the last 6 years or so, something like that?
5-6 years.
There's no reason why you shouldn't be in the top 5. But if you got a blown out elbow and you're going to miss 2 months, if you're not even yourself right away, that puts you at 3 to 4 months potentially, and that's All-Star break or a little bit later, that then you're going to start coming around. I can't have you in the top 5.
Totally fair.
That's one of mine.
Totally fair. My first honorable mention is Tariq Skubal, like I mentioned to you before we started recording, and you went, who the hell is Tariq Skubal? That's a pretty regular reaction.
Enlighten us.
So he's on the Tigers, and being on the Tigers is tough. The last 2 pitchers that anyone gave a crap about on the Tigers were Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, and look how long they lasted on the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
So Skubal is a stud. The problem is he just hasn't been on the field all that much over the last 2 years because he had flexor tendon surgery in 2022.
Okay.
So he was recovering from that, but he's pitched in 198 innings over the last 2 seasons. And he's made 36 starts. So about a full season's worth of innings and starts.
Okay.
over those 36 starts, he's arguably the most dominant pitcher in the AL, and that includes Garrett Cole.
How is he doing that as a Tiger?
He absolutely refuses to give up home runs.
Now, does the
So
help him?
He does what?
Does the stadium itself help him pitching in Detroit?
To an extent, but home run hitters hit home runs, and he also pitches half of his games on the road. So,
Right.
But he gives up just over half a home run every game. And only 7% of the fly balls that he gives up leave the ballpark. So his calling card is, you can go ahead and hit the ball in the air, but you're not going to hit it clean. You're not going to square it up. You're going to pop it up, or you're going to float one out into right field. Or
I want to know the advanced metric on other pitchers that maybe this could be a different discussion for a different day, but I want to know the advanced metric. You said 7% of his fly balls. We got people like Garrett Cole. We got other people that we talked about having great ground balls.
If you shush for 2 seconds, Spencer Strider, Logan Webb, and Garrett Cole, all excellent ground ball pitchers.
Yep.
All of their home run to fly ball rates are in the 11 to 14% range. So he is 4 to 6% better than all of them with a worse ground ball rate because he doesn't care. Hit the ball on the ground, hit the ball in the air. The thing is, you're not going to hit it hard.
And you're not going to hit it out.
Yeah. Well, because you're not hitting it hard.
Right.
Huh. So he hasn't pitched enough to qualify for the top 5.
Yeah.
But if he pitches 32 starts and goes 200 innings this year, I mean, if it's the same numbers he put up over the last 30 starts, I don't see a reason why he's not in my top 5.
Right. Who's your other honorable?
I want to give you one guess.
I highly doubt you have mine, so enlighten me.
It's Aaron Nola.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So Nola, and I was looking it up, and I was actually really interested by this. I didn't actually know this, but Nola is like the biggest victim in terms of being let down by your defense.
I noticed, so I did a little ER digging and whatnot. He had a surprisingly high ERA last year.
Well, so I'll get to that too. This is another weird thing with Nola that I found while I was doing my research on him, and it's just strange. But so he like was killed by the defense, and I'm not saying like errors. Like obviously errors don't affect your ERA or anything like that because they would go as unearned runs.
Right.
So his FIP, again, we're going back to this, is 60 points lower than his actual ERA over the last 2 seasons. And that's the biggest negative discrepancy amongst any pitcher who still remains in the top 10. by 35 points.
That's insane.
So he has a 60-point discrepancy, and that's 35 points worse than the next. That just goes to show how much he is just not getting helped on defense when he is on the mound.
Right.
He had a home run issue last year. He definitely gave up a lot of bombs, but he's just another one of those guys like Cole who's just been like at or near the top since like 2017 or 2018. He's just always giving you 200 innings, always getting 200 strikeouts.
Right. He's a household name. You expect all the strikeouts. Like we prefaced this prior to starting our recording. I, for some reason, could not get out of my head why Aaron Nola wasn't in my top 5. If you just watch the game and you watch his starts, he's like guaranteed 7 to 8 innings. He's guaranteed somewhere between 7 and 10 strikeouts. Sometimes he lets up a few runs, but from just watching it, you would think his numbers would be better than what they show. So
and and that's why it's interesting when you start looking at the FIP versus the ERA and how much the defense plays a role, and then you go, oh my God, could you guys just like get to a fly ball maybe?
help
Just
him.
one of them?
To quote Kevin Hart, help me.
Yeah,
Help.
yeah. No, but to that interesting thing, you said his ERA was like weird and bad last year.
Over 4 last year.
4.6 or 4.4 or something like that. It wasn't good.
It was over 4, which as a top no-name starter
That's weird.
is, I want to say, awful.
It is. So this is where it gets weird. He's really good in even number years and really bad in odd number years.
What, are you going to have a Giants statistic when they won the every other year World Series kind of thing?
Well, it's sort of, but not really. So it's like 2016, 2018, 2020, and 2022.
Yep.
Take those 4 years, put them together. He has a 3.23 ERA and a 2.69 FIP.
Okay.
That's really good.
Yep.
17, 19, 21, and 23. A 4.13 ERA and a 3.55 FIP.
Yikes.
So the last thing I have to say for why Aaron Nola is one of my honorable mentions, 2024 is an even year.
All right. So my last honorable mention, and I think it's kind of funny that both of my honorable mentions have this in common. So they were both last year's Cy Young winners. My other honorable mention is Blake Snell.
Is it because he doesn't have a team?
It's because he's not signed yet.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit of digging prior to us recording. He's been contacted by Houston within the last couple days.
I saw that.
And then so it's like if he goes to Houston, I think it's going to be he's a top 5 guaranteed.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then the other one was the Rangers. Those are the two bigger names of teams that I saw trying to communicate with him.
I didn't even see the Rangers thing.
If you're going to try to take the Cy Young winner of last year for the NL and put him on the World Series team last year, what's going to stop them from at least coming close to repeating?
I have my opinions on the Rangers, but I think that's for next week's episode. But no, I agree with you for the most part. I mean, you're adding
a very dominant style pitcher to a decent rotation and a decent team.
My only knock on Blake Snell is that he's won the 2 Cy Youngs.
Mm-hmm.
And the both times he's done it are the years that he goes over 180 innings. Every other year, I'm pretty sure he's failed to clear 130 innings. So that's a knock, and that's again some walk issues. But yeah, when you're coming off a Cy Young year and like you're the best pitcher in baseball last year,
why aren't you signed?
Because of his agent and because of how much money he wants and the fact that he's been an inconsistent pitcher over the last so many years, yada, 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 yada.
But like, if you can tell me that I can win the Cy Young, there should be at least one team. Well, the Astros and Rangers are talking.
Well, and the Yankees offered him a lot of money, and he turned it down.
I wouldn't want to go to the Yankees.
Well, but he turned down 5 years, $150 million.
Wouldn't want to go to the Yankees.
But no one has offered him anything close to that. And then the Yankees came back with another offer, from what I heard, which was like shorter but higher annual value.
Didn't the Padres counteroffer it too? The one that from the Yankees?
Yeah, I think so. And he didn't go back. It's been a weird offseason, and people are like confused. They're like, do I blame Snell here? Is he the issue? Or do I blame
the agent? Yeah, is it? Oh, that's his agent?
Well, yeah, and of course that's an issue because how many people have we seen lately sign that's part of Boris halfway through spring training? But
I don't like him as an agent, but that's my opinion.
So I think he's a fantastic agent in the sense that he is always trying to get his players the best possible deal.
But also at a cost with how much he makes himself.
Right. I mean, and that's a huge part of it too. He needs to get his percentage, but he does still try his absolute best, obviously, to take care of the players. The only issue is that he almost like refuses to let his players sign extensions.
Who falls out and why?
It's Garrett Cole for me, and it's just injury based. So I had him at 3. I mean, that was definitely a stretch, but again, if he comes back and he's Garrett Cole, he could even over 24 starts or something. That is, I'd rather take 24 starts of Garrett Cole than 24 starts of a lot of people. So,
right,
I think that he's still definitely a top 3 pitcher if he's back beginning of June and if he's Garrett Cole. So like him dropping out, it's kind of dependent on like obviously if he doesn't come back great or if stuff happens. But if I do have a backup, so if he comes back and he's just Garrett Cole right off the rip, then I think Framber Valdez is my dropout candidate, and that's because again the Astros defense proved that it could be really, really bad last year. And if the Astros defense is really, really bad again, and Framber Valdez relies so heavily on the ground ball to get his outs, it's not going to go well for him. And I think that drops him back down to a 6th or 7th again, like he was last year. Not horrible by any means, but he's definitely outside the top 5.
My fallout, re-looking at my notes and whatnot, I think I would have, I don't know. My original notes and thought process was Logan Webb would fall out on the concept of what if San Francisco doesn't put Chapman at 3rd and they keep JD Davis at 3rd? If they switch JD to 1st and Chapman at 3rd, and then the improved defense behind Webb, there's no way he falls out of the top 5.
None.
So if I had a backup, I would say it would be Gosman and I said Guzman earlier. Jesus, I said.
Oh, I thought you were just being funny. I thought you were just calling him the Goose Man or something.
No. I definitely had it typed out as Guzman instead of Gosman.
Yeah, he's not Spanish at all, man.
Nope, no, not at all. I would think Gosman would fall out.
I like that pick.
But
I also like him to be in your top 5. Like there's
he. And then there's also the weird potential that both Logan Webb and Gosman fall out if Blake Snell signs on a team and does Blake Snell stuff like he did last year, and Garrett Cole's elbow is like, oh, it actually only needs like a month or 2 to rest, and he pops up.
Right. I think if Aaron Nola has an even year,
he could easily also be a top 5. I also think if we get Garrett Cole being Garrett Cole, he also won't be rushed because I think the offense of the Yankee side is going to help him come back. He won't.
Yeah, the offense can float and they also bolstered the rotation. Like they're not going into this year with the rotation they had last year.
Yeah.
And the offense and the other pitchers can carry that record for long. You'd hope for long enough that Cole can take his time and come back, even if it is after the All-Star break or something like that. I'd take half a year and playoffs of Garrett Cole.
I would too, but I think
my top 5 if that happens. But like just as a Yankees fan and
if I'm a Yankees fan, give me a half a year of a healthy Garrett Cole. Plus playoffs if my offense can, I don't want to say keep me around 500, but you need to be a little bit better than 500 going into the All-Star break because I would fear Toronto, maybe the Red Sox. Maybe
it's entirely reliant on if their pitchers do anything.
They're so weird when they battle each other. And then there's also a lot of prospects that the Orioles have coming up.
I think the Orioles are gonna win that division. They also just traded for Corbin Burns, dude. I don't know how he didn't make either of our lists. I thought for sure he was gonna be somewhere.
He was close.
He was close on mine too, but I couldn't put him there.
I would say, but what made it harder is if Garrett Cole wasn't injured, he's guaranteed the number 1 consensus for both of us.
And then Spencer Strider is just automatically number 2.
Right, and then we could float 3 different people. you would have Logan Webb in your 3 to 5. I would have Logan Webb in my 3 to 5 because of bias reasons.
I'd probably have Zach Wheeler in my. So really, I'm looking at one name now.
Right, and we've had 7. We had 7 names mentioned that weren't him.
Yeah.
So it's if we're looking at advanced metrics, eye test, and then just basic numbers, he's top 15. He's or the very bottom edge of top 10.
He's probably top 10. I would say that he, like, if what happened last week happens again this week, where we have 9 out of 10 and we both had to think about someone off the top of our head, I mean, it's pretty obviously Corbin Burns. Like, that's the guy we haven't mentioned that just belongs there.
And then there's Corbin Burns, and I'm sure without thinking off the top of my head, there's probably like 3 or 4 guys that can float in between so many positions because of how good there are of starting pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and I hope, that Logan Webb stays in the top 5. He's been relatively the face of the Giants for the last few years.
Yeah.
So I think his pitching is going to help him. I think
Matt Chapman's defense is going to help him.
I hope.
Yeah. All right. Quick recap of our top 5s. I'll go correct order this time, 1 to 5. Because last week I was like, oh yeah, shoot, that was my number 5. So Spencer Strider number 1, Logan Webb number 2, Garrett Cole number 3, Framber Valdez number 4, and Zach Wheeler at number 5.
I also have Spencer Strider 1, but I have Zach Gallen 2, Luis Castillo 3, Kevin Gausman at 4, and then Logan Webb at 5.
So it is definitely interesting how the eye test and the metrics differ when it comes to pitching, but also not that much. Like, again, I'm sure that Wheeler is in your top 10.
Yep.
And I've definitely got all the guys that you've mentioned in my top 10.
Yeah.
And now that I've explained the reason that Logan Webb is at number 2 for me, you can personally rank him a little higher. Yeah, I mean, I think we've got it pretty good. I think that I think we're on the same page in terms of the fact that everyone that we think is good, the other person also thinks is good.
Because if you're going to do advanced metrics and deeper statistics like you do, it should match the eye test in theory.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a little bit more biased to our favorite teams, whether we think they're higher or lower. Because I put Logan Webb lower than what you have for the advanced metrics. It's because I've also watched almost every game he's pitched, and I remember a lot more of the bad games than of the good games. So that's where it's just like, you bring him down a little bit.
Well, and like everything in my heart wanted to put Aaron Nola on this list. I wanted to have 2 Phillies on this top 5 pitchers list so bad. I wanted to put Zach Wheeler at number 2, but I just couldn't.
Right.
It just didn't. He is a top 5 pitcher without a doubt in my mind, but he's not a top 2 or a top 3. It's just. But as soon as you get into the playoffs, that perception changes, and that's the best fucking pitcher in the world. Don't worry.
Yeah. But if we go based on what you say for your advanced metrics, then Aaron Nola should end up being a top 3 guarantee this year on his even years. The Giants always do better on even years, so hopefully Logan Webb follows suits with that. And then
what was that? 10, 12, 14?
It was either 10, 12, 14 or 12, 14, 16, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it was 16. I think it was 10, 12, 14.
Yeah.
But we're going to have these videos up, but I'm going to try to keep all of my side notes so I can compare them closer to the end of the year.
Yeah.
And probably realize how wrong I actually am.
I like that idea. I think that an end of the year video we'll do is we compare the actual top 5 hitters and the actual top 5 pitchers to what we had preseason.
I will be shocked because of how baseball works if we have anybody in either of those top 5s at the end of the year.
Oh no, I think we will have some hitters. I think that's just kind of gonna happen. I don't think we're gonna have all of them, but I would be remiss if we didn't have one pitcher, maybe not in the right spot, but one pitcher and one hitter each. And that one pitcher may very well be Spencer Strider.
Okay, so we have a different 2 through 5.
Yeah.
And
how many? I think one of my 2 through 5 will stay in the top 5.
that's where I want to go with 2 will stay in the top 5, but
You really want Logan Webb to stay in the top 5?
Yeah.
I think the dude just gets ground balls. And if they put a defense behind him, they can get ground balls. Because, yes, Brandon Crawford, phenomenal. But could that guy run at all to get to any balls ever? No, it was always a dive.
Yeah.
And as you get older, diving's harder, man.
Yep.
You don't have the range on it. You don't have the leap with your legs. You know that very well.
Yeah, I didn't have surgery on my shoulder because I was diving too much or anything. Yeah.
Absolutely not. In slow pitch softball, no.
Yeah, no. Anyway, it all started because of diving in baseball.
Right. But then we went, slow pitch softball. That's just baseball, but we don't have to try as hard. And then we forgot about the don't try as hard.
My body could still do this. I'm still 18. That's
leaving the field in a stretcher.
Yeah, about that.
I mean, I think that's about it for this episode. Next week we're doing the standings projections.
Yeah, we will have that.
Next week is also officially opening day.
Opening day is the.
Yeah, stop that. Don't do that to me. Don't treat me like a fucking casual. They have the Korea series, but opening day officially is the 28th.
Right. And so I'm looking at it. Today, the day we're recording this is on the 16th.
Yep.
We are going to have our standings ignoring the Korea series. Is that what we want to do?
No, I mean, we'll put the Korea series in there because we should be recording. Spoiler alert, we should be recording that over the next couple days because, another spoiler alert, I'm going to be in Philadelphia on opening day. So,
if you guys see Alden out in Philly, just let them know.
Yeah, give me a shout on the YouTube or on Facebook or something. But so those we will have still have an episode out on opening day. It's just going to be very far pre-recorded. So we'll do our final standings projections next week, and then
still thinking.
our plan throughout the season is just kind of weekly recaps, winners, losers,
updates,
best players, worst players. Yeah, updates. So that's kind of where we're leaning right now. And not to podcast and run on you, but I have absolutely nothing left to say. I'm sweating profusely, and I don't want to be here anymore. So,
I'm in the basement, so
yeah.
take it easy, guys.